Welcome back to Button Hook Me Radio, episode 6, and this is the big one. We have football season. We're recording this Sunday night, and we spent all day watching football, finally, and we have all the games out of the way except for the last 2 games Monday. And as always, I have with me my partner in crime, Brandon. What's up, man?
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen?
Man, not much. What do you think of week 1, man? That was crazy.
It was very crazy. Like, the powerhouses showed a lot of vulnerability. That was for sure. Like, it was pretty wild.
It's just definitely different when you get to see, you see kind of preseason and a lot of your feelings of how a team is going to be depend upon how they looked last year.
Right.
Which isn't always the case,
Yeah.
Like people found out last year, the previous year before last year, 2 years ago, Atlanta was that powerhouse, and they came in and just sucked last year. You know what I'm saying? So, like, you don't know who those teams are going to be this year, and who those teams like the Chiefs are last year, where, we have some no-name team going 9-0. I know the first thing me and you did when we were watching football bright and early in the morning is the Jacksonville game. We're like, What is going on?
That was the craziest shit
Next
ever.
thing we know, Jacksonville, who's pegged pretty much by everybody out there as the worst team in the league, is all of a sudden up 17-0.
No, with some no-name receiver, fucking rookie receiver catching passes all over the place.
Yeah, so that's what's kind of fun about that. Every season there's always those hits and misses and changes, and you really never know what's going to be. Like, I think all of us were kind of surprised. We had some pretty good upsets this week.
There were some really good ones.
Miami over the Patriots, which, Patriots have always had trouble with Miami.
Yeah.
For one reason or another, who really knows if it's just the way they kind of match up or play calling styles or whatever. But that was surprising to me. I had New England pegged as someone that I thought was really going to stand out this year.
Yeah. They put together a defense to go with their, above average offense. So yeah.
And their defense was really spotty. They did a lot of really good stuff, but then also gave up a lot of big plays. So I think it might be one of those things where you just don't have a lot of time working together.
Right.
And if you don't have that, then the rest of everything else kind of falls apart. So one of the other big upsets, Buffalo over Chicago. What'd you think of that?
You know what? I know everybody is hot on Chicago, just like we were talking about based on last year. I've never really been super impressed with Chicago. I mean, they got 2 really good receivers, but Cutler's always been spotty. Like, for every 3 touchdowns he has 2 interceptions. Like,
well, that's exactly what we had this week.
So, and like last year, I was really high on Buffalo. Like when EJ Manuel was playing, they looked really good. Like, they were playing really well. So I was interested to see how they would do with their full healthy team back, and I mean, they showed what they can do. So,
well, there's a lot of young talent there,
There's a ton of young talent,
outside of, and then they still have those veteran people in place, and they've always shown that they have a really good pass rush, which is something that's needed more and more with this high passing offense that's kind of come to terms in the NFL.
Yeah.
I was really impressed all around there. Ended up winning that by 3 points. So, besides those teams, who for you this week really stood out? What's the team that you thought, wow, like they stood out, that they're going to be a contender?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say a contender, but Minnesota stood out the most to me. And I mean, it's like it's not surprising to me just because I had their head coach as a defensive coordinator, but their defense looked ridiculously good. I know St. Louis is hurting, Bradford's out. They had their 3rd string quarterback in there, but Minnesota their defense looked hella solid.
Yeah,
so they were surprising. Let's see. I'm trying to think who Houston's defense looked good.
Mm-hmm.
They were surprising. Well, I guess not really surprising, but based on, like we were talking earlier, based on last year, they looked good.
Yeah, well, and even last year, Houston's defense was, it was their offense a lot of the time that was,
Yeah.
sketchy, which in turns makes your defense bad sometimes. But, you're right. They have the key people in place there. I was really impressed, coming off of, I mean, obviously they have a ton of talent, but, once again, if you're going off of last year, fucking Atlanta sure looked good.
Yeah.
They came back out like
they looked like what they were supposed to look like last year.
Yeah. And that game was wild altogether. I think all together, out of all the games I watched, that was the craziest game.
Yeah, that was the funnest to watch.
So. 5 lead changes in the second half.
Yeah.
Just back and forth, just a shootout there with New Orleans, and it's crazy seeing someone. You have teams like New Orleans and New England, like you're saying, some of those powerhouse teams that are starting 0-1. Like you rarely see that. Green Bay 0-1.
Yeah. And
you're not used to
0-1 just getting done. Like not just we lost by 3. They got fucking dominated.
Which brings that to teams who looked good. Fucking Seattle. I mean. They looked like they didn't skip a beat since the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, then other way, San Francisco, looking like complete dog shit in preseason, horrible in preseason. Didn't score a touchdown in preseason, and then come out and just do what they did. I mean, they manhandled Dallas. That was nasty.
I'm excited for those Seattle-San Francisco games because those two defenses are both.
Those are going to be.
We've known for years and years, I mean, since Aaron Rodgers took the helm, how big of a powerhouse offense Green Bay's been. And they held Green Bay just barely over 250 yards of scrimmage. And I mean, that was a pretty brutal beatdown.
Yeah, it was.
So, okay, for that, teams who really stood out, who looked really bad, way worse than you expected?
Oh, fucking Dallas.
Yeah.
By far, Dallas looks... Yeah, I don't even know what to say. They were just bad all around. Yeah. Tony Romo looked like he should have been running around with a fucking bib on.
Well, he looked Tony Romo just, you can tell with the contract and everything else that's going on, and the Cowboys, everything is on him, and so he's just slinging the ball up for slinging the ball up's sake. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's been crazy to me. And it brings me, the other team that I thought, which unfortunately it's me saying this, I was so disappointed with how the Chiefs looked.
Yeah, that was...
Alex Smith was doing that same exact thing, just slinging the deep ball, which is very uncharacteristic.
Yeah, that's not what he does.
And having Alex Smith throw 3 interceptions in one game is mind-boggling because... you never saw that in any time of he played in this last season. So I'm hoping that they kind of get stuff going. And we talked about this a little. We're already hurting. We lost 6 different starters to free agency in the off season, and then we come back and this week. We're probably losing. It hasn't been official yet, but Derek Johnson and our defensive starting tackle, DeVito, both 2 torn Achilles.
And I think it's pretty official. So
yeah, I mean, I know Derek Johnson's is. I don't think they've announced DeVito's yet, but it's just brutal, man. It's Kansas City's already so beat up. So with those injuries and as bad as we looked, I'm thinking that it's going to be a rough year.
It's what do you do?
You had a little bit better start to your season there, still rocking your Bengals gear.
Yeah, that's what I got to do. Yeah, they were. I mean,
pretty good game.
It just pissed me off because we watched that game. That it should have been 50-0 with the way they were moving up and down the field and stopping Baltimore any chance they got. It should have been 50-0, but they could not score a fucking touchdown. I mean, they're not going to win games with just field goals. I mean, luckily they did this shit. This was week 1. Hopefully they can get their shit straightened out because they're not going to beat Baltimore very many times with just taking field goals. That's just not going to happen. So
yeah.
But their defense, first half looked ridiculous. Very happy with that. Second half, I don't know if they got lax or what, but I mean they shot themselves in the foot and let Baltimore get back in that game. Like I said, that game shouldn't have even been close with the way they were dominating in the first half. So Hopefully
we just got done watching the Denver game, and they did the same thing where their defense, Denver brought in all those talented guys in the defense, side of the ball, and they did the same thing. When I watched that first half against the Colts with as star-studded power as the Colts are, and Denver was shutting them down, I was like, oh no. Yeah. I was like, is Denver going to be this good? But then once the second half came, you saw they kind of reevaluated at halftime and changed up their game plan a little bit, and then really beat them up for the whole second half of the game.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Andrew Luck, that dude has an arm on him.
Oh, yeah. And the biggest thing about Andrew Luck, I'll tell you what, you can talk about his ability to run, you can talk about his arm, you can talk about him being clutch and come back or whatever. The thing with Andrew Luck is he's just a baller. Like, he wants to win.
All the time.
He's Tom Brady.
Everything he can.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he's just game. Like, you can put that guy down 50 points, and he's still going to give it his best.
He's still not going to think they're out of it ever.
And that's I think that's the most dangerous trait you can have.
Yeah, when you have a mentality like that, absolutely.
Yeah, it's brutal. I mean, you saw what happened to my Chiefs in the playoffs last year to them. You know, down freaking 30 points and them coming back, and then they almost did it to Denver today. I was cheering like a madman.
Oh, yeah.
I have old Andrew Luck on my fantasy team, so he was, the first half I was like, oops. And then the second half I was like, okay, this is the Andrew Luck I know and love. But so we talked about teams that really look like they fell off. What about, is there a star player, somebody who is generally pretty good that really you thought looked piss poor?
Oh, piss poor. Let's see. Well, we haven't seen the Giants.
We haven't seen the Giants. That's going to be tomorrow night. But one who I did was Doug Martin. Doug Martin's continually kind of looked, like he was going to be that guy. And then this week, Doug Martin ended up being the fourth highest rusher on their team, had 9 touches for 9 yards.
Yeah, that's terrible.
That's not what you want to see out of your starting running back.
No, absolutely not. Especially in he's been pretty banged up. What, last year, 2 years? He's been pretty banged up. This is like the first time he's been super healthy, and that's what he does. Mm-hmm. So, no, I think I would have to say, thinking. I don't know. Probably Romo. I mean, yeah, it's what he's known for, but he just looked lost. And like at times I was like, oh, his back's not right. It's his back. But then he was chucking the ball 70 yards down the field. I'm like, if your back's fucked up, you're not chucking the ball 70 yards down the field. So I'm like, it's not his back. He's just playing like shit. So that was pretty wild. I mean, he just looked bad.
Yeah, my other one that I kind of had to note there was Alex Smith. We just talked about the similarities there.
Yeah.
But Alex Smith, too, just didn't look like Alex Smith. And, I think that last drive where we ended up and, Fasano put a touchdown in, he looked a little bit better. But I'm a bit worried. We're going into – or, we have going to Denver next week. And we're going to kind of see how we can contend. If we do that against the Titans, I'm scared to see what happens.
If you're not putting up points against the Titans, you're going to be in trouble against Denver.
Yeah, so
like I said, it's week 1, though. You never know. Maybe they're just getting all their fucking jitters and bugs out, and we'll see next week. So
a quick switch to fantasy real quick here.
Okay.
Who's that dude you're looking at on the fantasy waiver wire?
Old homeboy from Jacksonville.
Alan Hearns.
Yeah, that guy.
The name that everybody knows now after today.
Yeah. Well, and then
he went 4 catches for yards and 2 TDs.
2 touchdowns, I know. And that was all in the first half?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you did jack shit in the second half. That was all first half.
It was all in the first quarter.
So, and every running back on the Browns except for Ben Tate.
Yeah, that's why, um, Isaiah Crowell's had the
Crowell,
2 touchdowns. Yep. Terrence West, like 110 yards.
Yep.
I was very impressed with the Browns' running game in general. It looked like you could have put me back there, and I would have been busting it.
What is dude? Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Looked fantastic. I mean, he didn't have super crazy stats, but you could see some definite potential with him.
Yeah, and he's going
to be a star. He's going to be a good quarterback. So.
Yeah, the Jets have a good defense.
They're no slouch,
but they're good.
Yeah.
And he didn't even throw a pick, which
he made great decisions. He looked. I mean,
really
they were obviously basing their game plan around him not throwing that much. But I think eventually they're going to open that playbook for him, and I think he's going to go nuts.
You know who I'm going to be on an eye out for if it's available anywhere is if someone has Kelvin Benjamin available still.
Yeah, for real.
One of those guys that he probably got picked up if you draft like a pretty deep league.
Yeah, if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, if smaller leagues, some of those rookies kind of sneak out of there, and I'll tell you what, he went off 6 catches for 92 yards and a touch.
You heard me. I'm calling him Rookie of the Year. So
yeah, and
that
was without Cam Newton. So
exactly.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was a good first week of football, that's for sure.
So if anybody who listens to this follows us out there, on my Twitter or Facebook, anything like that, I sent out while we were prepping for the show earlier today, once the main games had ended, besides the Sunday night game, and I sent out on Twitter and I sent out on Facebook, what did you think was the individual play of the week? And got some responses back from different people, and I have a few different ones. So I'm going to give you kind of list off what they said, and then I want your opinion on which of these 4 you think was the best play of the week.
Okay.
All right, so somebody said that Jacquizz Rodgers, that touchdown that he had, that 20-yard...
The little cyclone run, I'm going to call that the cyclone run.
Tackle, that was such a pretty little fucking play.
That was sexy, yeah.
I really liked that. I thought that was a pretty good play. We've got that rookie Mike Williams catch that me and you talked about when it happened.
Oh, yeah.
He had that fall. Ended up being pulled out of bounds.
Yeah.
But I think that might have been catch of the week. Like, that was an incredible catch.
That was nuts, yeah.
Fred Jackson of the Buffalo Bills, his 20-yard stiff arm of Chris Conte.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, that was a good one.
Just stiff arm that guy. That reminded me straight up of Marshawn Lynch beast mode style, where he's just pushing people down the field.
That one, it reminded me of, you remember a couple years ago, Adrian Peterson playing against Cleveland.
Yeah.
He stiff armed that dude and literally picked him up and threw him out of bounds.
That's exactly what that looked like.
Yeah.
And then kind of the big one that's already gone viral a little bit is Antonio Brown in Pittsburgh drop kicking the punter.
Can you really call that a play, though? I mean, it was a penalty.
It was so. I mean, it's a play's a play. Like, it's.
Well, then that one's gonna win because that shit was nuts.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat something like that.
Yeah. Well, you're missing. How can you not? AJ Green's touchdown. It was fucking.
It wasn't me. This was crowdsourcing.
Well, they crowdsource like dickheads. That fucking AJ
Green. The guy with an entire room full of Bengals stuff. Like, how could you not? How could you not?
Dude, it was a 77-yard bobbling fucking touchdown catch. And then the move that he put, he looked like fucking Barry Sanders at the end of that play when he put that move on the dude.
Yeah, it was pretty nice.
Come on, that was sexy.
I gotta admit, it was, especially because it was to win the game. You know, I mean.
Yeah, that too. That was, yeah.
It was pretty beautiful. It was so funny seeing your reaction to that. For all the listeners here, we generally get together every week and watch football, and so we were sitting there together, and generally we watch Red Zone on the big TV, and then we each individually kind of play our games. We have NFL tickets, so we kind of play them on a laptop or our cell phone. We stream them through the NFL app, and so we're just watching Red Zone. It hasn't popped up yet, and all of a sudden Brandon just absolutely heartbroken because
devastated. Yeah.
Steve Smith's busts the big long pass, and within 15 minutes, not even that, like it must have been 5 minutes, all of a sudden your eyes just get big. You're like, what? What just happened?
Yeah.
And you're like looking at your phone and like, AJ just busted like an 80-yard fucking.
It's like an 80-yard touchdown right the fuck after. Oh god, it was so terrible because I was so down. Like I was just like ready to fucking throw my phone through the fucking window and just end everything. And then I'm like a good extreme just fucking high.
Yeah.
Like you don't see that often. Like in any game, 2 fucking like 80-yard passes back to back.
Yeah,
like,
deep back to backs like that.
That
was brutal. So those are definitely plays of the week. Who had the biggest fail of the week? Was it Romo? You think it was Romo coming out and tossing 3 picks? 3 picks that automatically turned around for 21 points?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some bonehead plays that happened, and that's probably got to be I think it's just Romo. All of his turnovers. They were all like none of them. Like usually when you see quarterbacks throw interceptions, you're like, it could go either way. That was, the receiver could have tried a little bit harder for that cat. Every single one of those interceptions was just fucking retarded.
Yeah.
But I will say there was the what was that? It was in Tampa Bay. That Tampa Bay interception. Remember when McCown fumbled it and then picked it up and then
oh yeah,
that was
horrible.
Fucking stupid.
I don't know if anybody who's listening saw that, but in about what was it like probably like the third quarter?
It might have been right at the beginning of the fourth, maybe midway through the third.
McCown picked up a snap and
fumbled it.
Yeah, fumbled it, and he tried to pick it up and just do a little toss or something, and it slipped out.
Threw it right to the fucking defender.
Yeah,
it's like those little wide receiver screens. That's all tiny.
Yeah,
like you gotta throw it to that dude quick. He fumbled it and still tried to pick it up and throw it to him. He was like fucking 8 seconds late on the receiver screen and threw it right to the offensive lineman. That was the dumbest play I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, he was channeling his inner Mark Sanchez.
Yeah.
Like, that was just so bad. I couldn't believe it.
I know. Mark Sanchez is probably sitting at home. He's like, oh, thank God they're going to forget about the butt fumble. Fucking hey, thank you.
I know. My winner for that one is usually the sure-handed Marquise Colston.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of that game in New Orleans, that fumble just sealed the deal and gave Atlanta the win.
Yeah, literally lost that game for him.
Like,
I felt bad. It sucked.
Horrible fumble. Like,
yeah.
You could tell.
Like, I
felt bad for him though, because it cut to him on the sideline. He was just devastated.
Well, and you feel bad for a guy like that who's he's not cocky. He's always reliable. He's just a great role player for that team. Yeah, you feel bad for a guy that goes through something because you could just tell that just destroyed him inside. Because he knows he let his team down. You feel bad for him.
His reaction to that reminded me of, I believe it was 2 years ago, and I can't remember exactly what game it was. But remember the very end of the game when Stevie Johnson and Buffalo dropped that wide open touchdown pass to win the game.
Yep.
And it just broke him as a human being. Like,
yes, that was And
that
may have that actually
interview.
You think about it, that probably really did, because that was the beginning of his decline, really.
Yeah.
Because he didn't, after that he didn't do shit the rest of the year, and then he didn't do shit last year.
Yeah, not a lot.
Then what happened? And then he obviously did enough to get released from the fucking Bills.
Mm-hmm.
So that really was his downfall. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
Oh, but going back to the top plays. How do people not talk about the fucking Jay Cutler fucking spin around, dish it to the fucking
tight
end pass? That was the craziest shit I've ever seen.
Grabbed Cutler's jersey and gave him the little whirl around, and
he just fucking somehow whipped it out of there and tossed it right to him and got. What did they get, like a fucking 10-yard pickup out of that?
Yeah, got the first down off of it. That's for sure.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet.
So just quickly before we move on, let's take a little look at week 2.
Yeah.
We got week 1 in the books. We still haven't seen the Monday night game, so when you're listening to this, you'll realize we haven't mentioned Monday night games, and we have 2 this week.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't seen those yet, so I'm sure there'll be a couple big players there. But week 2. We really don't have a lot of those key big matchups. It seems like there's kind of a lot of just people playing, we don't have a lot of, like this week I felt like we had some really big games.
Yeah.
Week 2, I mean, there's definitely some great matchups, but I feel like there's some pretty one-sided affairs there.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest matchup probably for this coming week would have to be the Steelers and the Ravens.
Yeah, that will be good. That'll give an idea of how the rest of your division is going to lay out, kind of seeing how those guys play against each other. Another big one is the Monday night game next week, Eagles and Colts. Eagles obviously showed, they started off really slow. Nick Foles had a couple of fumbles. And then the Colts started off really slow, but both those teams showed really similar things where they could come back and put up some serious points pretty quick on the board.
Yeah, well, in that second half, I mean, they both showed what they're supposed to look like. Mm-hmm. Like their first half, it was like they were just stretching.
And I got to take I got to take a little credit because when Jacksonville was up 17-0 at the end of the first quarter, I was like, dude, Eagles are going to come back and win it with.
Well, remember, it was funny because we were like, well, because that was when Jacksonville was driving. We're like, if they don't score on this drive, they're going to come back, and they didn't score on that drive, and they and Eagles came back.
That's just how Chip Kelly rolls, man. Like he'll just bomb it on you real quick. Normally I would say there's a couple other matchups here that I think will be pretty interesting. Next week we have 49ers and the Bears. I think that should be pretty good. We'll get to see, I think if Cutler can find a way to put a minimal spin on the turnovers, I think the Bears can be pretty dangerous. They got a lot of talent there.
A ton of talent. Another good game should be the Falcons at the Bengals.
Yeah.
After this last week, that should be a really good game.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is, like with the Falcons, I mean, Bengals, it's a lot tougher defense than New Orleans, so they're not going to look like they looked again.
That's what I'm saying. Well, that's what I'm saying, like, because, I mean, Atlanta showed their firepower, so it'll be a really good offense against a really good defense, so.
That should be
an interesting game to watch.
That should be definitely a pretty crazy one. And then I thought it was kind of interesting. We have, when I was looking through these games, I saw the two teams that had the huge underdog victories this week, week 1, are going to be playing each other. The Dolphins and the Bills, both of them know.
Yep.
So one of them streak gets broken. It's going to hurt somebody's feelings.
Yeah. Well, it could be a really interesting game just because of the way their defense played this last week. That Patriots and Vikings game, that could be interesting.
Yeah, can you imagine if, here's the thing that I didn't even mention when you were in Minnesota, you're talking about Minnesota, was Minnesota looked pretty damn good, and that wasn't even that wasn't Adrian Peterson looking great.
No, that was with Adrian Peterson having very mediocre by his
9 yards rushing or something like that, and 15 yards passing. So I mean that's off the top of my head. I don't know if those were his real stats, but I believe it was something like that. Where that's a good game for most running backs, but that's definitely not a good game for Adrian Peterson.
Well, you see Vikings put up 34 points, and you immediately think, well, Adrian Peterson had 2 of those touchdowns. He had to have 2 of those touchdowns.
Yeah.
So.
Which kind of brings us, while we're on the Vikings, people who listened last week, they were our Button Hook Blitz, where we made fun of them at the end of the show, and I made a couple little wagers here on the show saying that I thought both Gerhart and Patterson, and I caught a lot of heat from this. I had a bunch of people messaging me after listening to the show saying, specifically I think about Cordell Patterson. Gerhart, I don't know. I feel like in fantasy football he was getting hella hyped, but maybe people aren't really feeling it in real life. But after they listened to the show before today, people were going, oh no, Patterson's the truth, and he's this and that, and and they came at me pretty hard about it. And I never said, I don't think Patterson's a chump by any means. I mean, that's a talented
he's a good player.
But I think he's very overrated. I think he has potential, but I don't think he's like a spectacular wide receiver. And
I agree with you 100%.
So what I said last week was Gerhart was not going to get over 100 yards rushing, and Patterson was not going to get over 100 yards receiving.
Right.
And I was right. And it was not by small margins. Gerhart had 18 carries for 42 yards,
Yep.
Which that's 2.3 yards a carry. That's horrible.
Not good. That's
horrible. And that's against Philly's run defense,
which is garbage.
The worst run defense in the league. One of them. So that's horrible. And that's not a small amount of touches. If you're giving somebody the ball 20 times.
Well, yeah, the most carries he probably had the most carries in the league this week.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do the math, but he has to be pretty damn close.
Because all the other teams were splitting carries with, multiple running backs, yeah. I think he had the most carries out of everybody, so.
I mean, that's pretty nasty.
Yeah.
And Patterson had 3 catches for 26 yards.
Yep.
The one thing Patterson did have that saved him for you fantasy owners is he busted one super long run that ended up giving you a bunch of fantasy points. So. Yep. 67-yard run for a touchdown, which, in my opinion, if they used Patterson more in that area, I wouldn't hate on him so much.
No.
If he was their Sproles or he was their Devin Hester or he was their, somebody like that they use in specialty formations, but I don't think, and I'll stay on the bandwagon of it, where I don't think Patterson is going to be their breakout receiver like they're wanting him to be.
No, I don't think so either. Totally agree with you. He's not. He just doesn't have that. He doesn't have that number 1 receiver quality.
No. Or in my opinion, number 2. I don't think.
I
just don't think he has. He's not the right. He's not the right person for that. And hopefully I'm wrong because I like the kid personally.
Yeah, he's incredibly talented. Yeah. He's just not he's not talented as a receiver.
Yeah, he's not the route runner, and he's not. He doesn't seem like he's very football smart.
Right.
I don't know the guy as a person, but that's kind of what it's always kind of came across for me. He's just incredibly hard to catch. And but yeah, so
a great comparison for him is, do you remember Jerome Simpson back? I mean, it's kind of funny. He actually plays for Minnesota now, but when he played with Cincinnati, super athletic. He couldn't get the playbook. He couldn't run routes.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't. I mean, he couldn't get past coverage.
Now that you're drawing that comparison, who else it's saying that's in that same line was, I don't even think he's playing right now anymore, but Joshua Cribbs from the Browns.
Yeah.
They had the same problem with him where he was so amazing in space, but they couldn't find a place to play him.
Right. Yep.
So, I mean, it's people like that. I think he's going to be one of those guys. So they just need to keep finding ways to do those little handoffs or little screens out to him and, hopefully keep putting up points with them. But
have him kick return, too.
Yeah.
That's where he'll make his money. But, yeah, they put him at receiver and strictly receiver. He won't do anything.
So now that I was safe with my little wager, I decided that what we were going to do is turn that into a little new segment of the show where every other week, you'll do one, I'll do one.
Okay.
Rotate back and forth.
Okay.
And you'll make a wager during the show, go on a little tirade of whatever you want and why you think you feel this way. And if you lose your wager the next week, it has to be about the next week coming up.
Okay.
And if you lose that wager, we'll have a little poll on Facebook and Twitter and the different areas where people follow us and listen to the show, where if you lose, they get to pick something simple and funny for you to do, where it can be we can do it on the next show, or we can, post it up on Facebook or Twitter or whatever.
Facebook something. Cool.
So.
We talked about this before. We talked about this before the show. I won't have sex with men. I won't do it. At least not on camera.
At least not because of football.
Right. Not because of a dumb wager. No way.
I still get my pre-Thursday night football blowy though, right?
Of course.
Excellent. So what do you got for us, Leslie? Week 2. Looking at the Week 2 schedule, what's your wager there?
Well, I don't even have to look at the schedule. I'm going to go back to your team. Okay. Jamal Charles had what? I can't remember. I think it was either 7 or 9 fucking carries.
Yeah, it was 7.
This dude was on track to be MVP last year. And they gave him the ball fucking 7 times?
Yeah.
Are you joking?
Yeah.
If they give him the ball any less, I'm going to put the number out there. If they give him the ball any less than 15 times, that's my wager. He will have more. He will have 15.
At least 15 to touch.
He'll have 15. He'll have 15 plus carries next week.
Okay.
That's rushing.
They better. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, they're going to be behind with Denver anyways, but they got to continue. Reed has to realize that we have to continue to run the ball no matter what position we are.
Absolutely. Your team runs through. I mean, everybody obviously it runs through Alex Smith, but it runs specifically through Jamal Charles. Mm-hmm. Your team will only go as far as he can fucking carry you.
I like that bet. So
that's mine. Yeah.
Anybody listen to this next week?
15 plus carries, and that's rushing, not touches. That's just rushing.
You're going to need to take off your sock so you have 10 fingers and 5 toes to count Jamal Charles rushes on. And if we get to over 15, Brandon will be safe. Yep. Otherwise, we'll have to come up with some. We'll have to make Brandon not be happy and come up with some little penalty for him. So he's like, oh, boy.
Well, I'm not really like I'll fucking eat anything. Like I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about that.
We'll have to eat something live on the show or something. We'll figure it out.
But I'm not worried about too much shit. So
we'll get.
I mean, everybody that knows me knows I'll pretty much do fucking anything. So you're gonna have to come pretty fucking. You have to come pretty strong.
Now you're challenging them. Now it's.
I'll fucking do that too. That's whatever. Like I said, but I won't have sex with men on camera.
Yeah. So now another segment that we do every week is we do this little button hook breakdown where we take an item that is football related but isn't football 100% talk like we've been doing here for the last 40 minutes of the show. This one's an interesting one, and I know it's something you feel pretty passionate about, so I was pretty excited when I came up with the idea for it.
Okay.
Announcers.
Oh, fuck.
There's been a long ongoing joke with me and Brandon for years how both of us, I mean, this is going to be announcers who you like, who you dislike, kind of yada yada. But the kind of inside joke here that you listeners don't know is me and Brandon both passionately for years have absolutely hated Chris Collinsworth.
Oh, fuck. And I'll tell you, and it is hard for me to hate Chris Collinsworth just because he is brethren.
Yeah, he's like the only Bengal ever to do broadcasting.
Yeah, and I'm just like
Tyson does too.
Yeah, but Boomers. Yeah, he's okay. Fucking Chris Collinsworth. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Keep talking. I don't want to talk about it.
No, you have to. We are on the show to talk.
That's what I'm saying. You keep going. You look like you were going to keep going on it.
No, I was just kind of bringing it up, and.
So I mean, what do we want to talk about with him? Like.
Well, I mean, my whole thing is going to be about announcers in general. So I decided to bring up Chris Collinsworth first, just because, I know both of us have. Like, for me, the thing is with them is I hate people who just love teams because they're famous, and
right.
He always seems to gush on and on. He's the biggest person about the Cowboys and the Patriots.
Oh, yeah.
He has this love affair with the Cowboys. He has a love affair with Tom Brady. And all that he does is just want to gargle their quarterback balls. And it frustrates me.
Could you imagine if he teamed up with fucking Aikman and Joe Buck and called the Cowboy games?
Yeah, that would be horrible.
Oh, my fucking God, that would be the worst thing ever. Ever. No, my big thing with Chris Collinsworth is besides that whole his love affair for fucking Cowboys and Patriots. When he just says some of the stupidest shit that you'll ever hear.
Oh yeah.
Like he'll just be out and be like, well, the way he threw that ball, if the guy would have put out his arms and just put him out there, he may have caught the ball.
You're like, oh yeah,
that's how you catch a fucking ball. You put your arms out there and you catch a fucking ball.
That's physics.
Yeah, God, but I'm trying to think of something else he said. Me and my wife were laughing about it the other day.
And he always
or if that offensive lineman would have blocked that defensive lineman, the running back could have ran through the hole.
You're like, oh.
Yeah, that's called being a fucking offensive lineman. That's what the fuck you do. Are you retarded?
My favorite one that I remember just of all Chris Collinsworth stuff, and I remember when it happened, people were making fun of it pretty heavy, but Super Bowl 46, the famous Giants win over the Patriots, who, had the huge crazy season there, and in the fourth quarter on one of those big drives, the Patriots, Wes Welker dropped a really easy pass that would have converted for the first down.
Right.
And Chris Collinsworth goes, Welker makes that catch 100 out of 100 times. And that there's like, he obviously just like, that doesn't work that way. Like, he just missed that pass. He cannot make that 100 out of 100 times.
Right.
And the best thing out of all of it, Al Michaels, who I actually really like, just chimes in right after it perfectly. Oh, well, that must have been the 101st.
Yeah.
Like, it was like such a chill chime in, like making fun of Chris Collinsworth live on air.
Yeah.
It was so perfect.
Yeah, Collinsworth he is so retarded.
Yeah, and then on top of that is like he has this like kind of like gremlin pointy face. Like,
well, then he talks out of the side of his fucking mouth, and he just has like for some odd reason he just comes off like he has just this cocky fucking attitude.
Yeah.
Like he's the greatest thing that's ever graced fucking football.
So,
dude, you're a fucking you played for the Bengals.
Opposite wise, who's your favorite?
My favorite? So we're talking about just announcers, right? Not like not like on NFL Network and like those dudes. We're talking about like commentators, right?
Yeah, people who have done or currently do commentating.
Let's see. I'd probably have to go with Al Michaels.
I like Al Michaels too.
I think he's really the only one that I can't say anything bad about.
When John Gruden has done his limited commentating, I really like John Gruden.
I like John Gruden too, but I think Al Michaels is probably actually by far my favorite. He's the only one that realizes that he's not a fucking professional football player.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and talks like he's a fucking comment. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, I'd have to say Al Michaels.
I have a little bit of an out of bounds one.
Okay.
I have a guy who I absolutely love, and anytime I get a chance, anytime people talk about announcers, I try and chime in and relive the support. But I loved Dennis Miller on Monday Night Football.
Oh yeah.
Like, it was so he just so wasn't a football.
See, I thought we were talking about current.
No, I just said any announcer.
Oh shit! I thought we were talking current. Okay.
I can't. I wish they would have still kept him just because the craziest shit would come out of his mouth, and you would have to rewind the TV.
I don't know.
What did he just say? And he would just, and it was so funny because he just wasn't. It was just so much more than even football to him. Like he was using it like as he would use all sorts of football things, but just come up with the craziest shit. And I have a couple quotes here for you. I went and looked a few of them up. There was one that I remembered specifically when he said it. I was watching Monday Night Football and like, did he just really say that? Then I found a couple other good ones while I was looking through them. So this is one that I just kind of found. He said, "Big deal. So he scored. The last time I saw someone dance like that, I had to pay him $20 and get my pants dry cleaned the next day." Can you imagine somebody spouting that off of Monday Night Football? You would just be like,
fucking great.
"Oh my gosh!" And like, I didn't remember him saying that one, but I do remember him saying this next one, and it's specifically the quote I was like trying to find and look up, just because I thought it was like I could not believe it came out of his mouth, but. He said, watching the Ravens game, he said, "Ray Lewis knifed through those offensive linemen like a sucker punch switchblade, slicing between the ribs of some interbred trash-talking punk outside of a sports bar." How ballsy do you have to be to say that on Monday Night Football?
And that's why he's no longer on there.
Oh, yeah. I could not believe that shit. When he said that, I, like, stopped, and I was like, Is this real life?
Like, yeah, like what the fuck is going on right now?
I was like, that's just wild. So I'm constantly in a state of trying to revive Dennis Miller's announcing career.
Yeah, and actually not even from the humor standpoint, since I didn't know we were talking about past ones too. I thought we were just talking about like current ones. I really enjoyed Pat Summerall.
Oh yeah.
I really enjoyed Pat Summerall. Like he was just like chill to listen to. And it was fun listening to him counteract John Madden.
Yeah.
John Madden knows his shit, like, but he's almost comes off like Chris Collinsworth is because he says some stupid shit. Like some really stupid shit.
It's like if they want to win this team, the offense has to score some points.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure the winner of this game is the one that scores more points.
Yeah.
Like I remember him saying something actually exactly like that. It's like, thanks, John Madden. But I loved because Pat Summerall was so like down to earth and just calm that he counteracted John Madden so well. And I really like listening to Pat Summerall.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I always wanted to have the announcers get all together and like all those TV personalities, even the analysts and stuff like that, and just have like a knowledge bowl. I want to see who knows the most stats off the top of their head shit. That would be wild. Because there's some of those guys, like, if you follow, like, the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life is following Ian Rappaport on Twitter. Because that guy just sits wherever he is at all day and just tweets NFL information.
Oh, yeah.
He just must know more than any human being ever. Just like every 3 minutes he tweets.
Well, it's like him and who's the other dude? Adam Schefter. Adam Schefter.
Yeah, Adam Schefter's the same way.
I remember they were showing Adam Schefter one time after, like, you know how sometimes they'll show a clip and then they'll cut away to a commercial and come back like and show them like what they're doing behind the scenes waiting for the show to come back on. And this motherfucker was pulling like 3 cell phones and pagers and shit out of his pockets. Like he had like 3 cell phones that were ringing at the same time with different information from people giving him, information. Like, that's fucking wild. Like, he's just pulling cell phones out and setting them on the table and shit. I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts. All right, well, we got to move on before our time ends up here and kind of close off tonight's show with our last little section, the Button Hook Blitz. And I'm front rowing this one this week because I'm pissed about the Chiefs game, and we're going to make fun of the fucking Titans.
Yep.
Because I'll tell you what, like, that was a very just personal beating today.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, and I came to realize that, you know what, I really don't like the Titans. They really kind of anger me. And see, here's my dilemma, is I loved the fucking Oilers.
Yeah.
I was always a big Oilers fan.
Yep.
And, I really loved a lot of those guys there. And, had followed them for quite a while. And then when they became the Titans in '99, I was just like, what is this? I think that's what started it all, is it was just, you almost feel betrayed when your team switches. I mean, they weren't my team by any means, but they were a team I enjoyed. You're like, what is this new crap? And I mean, they still had a lot of the same players, but that was a big one for me. And then and we've talked about on the show before, my intense hate affair for Sean Green.
Yeah. Everybody should have a healthy hate for him.
Yeah, especially anyone who's drafted him in fantasy.
Yeah, he could be one of the most overrated players ever.
Yeah,
and like he hasn't even done anything.
Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't show up ever.
Well, and then you think about it. So then the Titans bring him in and get rid of Tarjo.
What's that? I lost you for a second.
I was just talking about so then they bring in, like how we were just talking about Sean Green being completely overrated. They bring him in to take the place of fucking Chris Johnson? Like,
yeah.
Seriously? You guys are fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I would much rather have a 40-year-old Chris Johnson than a fucking any Sean Green.
Who didn't look too bad this week, anyways.
No, he looked really good. So.
Yeah. And then another person I hate there. I mean, he's not even there anymore, but whenever people say his name, I associate with him as being a Titan, and that's Cortland Finnegan.
I was just going to say, I bet it's Cortland Finnegan. I couldn't stand that little cocky motherfucker either.
No. And he's in Miami now, but I'll tell you what, that guy just, if I had to pick a list of 5 NFL players who infuriated me, he'd be on it.
Yeah, he'd be top 3 probably. Yeah, he was just an asshole. Like, he just went out there to pick fights with fucking people.
Yeah. I don't like that guy at all.
I really wish, was it last year or the year before, when it looked like Andre Johnson was going to fucking destroy his life?
Oh, yeah, that would have been hilarious.
Andre Johnson would have fucked him up.
Especially someone like Andre Johnson, who's just usually the calmest person in the world.
Right, super chill. And like a dude like, if a dude like Cortland Finnegan can get under Andre Johnson's skin, You know that motherfucker's an asshole.
Oh yeah, what a dickhead. I'm happy he's in Miami now. I don't have to worry about all that bullshit.
Yeah.
Another one that's tricky for me with Tennessee though is, being a diehard Chiefs player, we keep sending them good football players.
Yeah. A la Dexter McCluster?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
A la a bunch of people.
Yeah.
I really liked, and this isn't all Chiefs players, this is probably me personally, but I was a big fan of Jackie Battle when we were having him as our backup.
He just wasn't. He wouldn't just give him.
I mean, he was never that big play guy, but I'll be damned if you needed 4 yards and Jackie Battle didn't punch 4 yards in for you.
Oh yeah, he'd get that for you every time.
And I would love to have somebody like, I don't feel like we have that. He is someone that could do that on our team still to this day. That I don't think. I mean, besides Sherman, our fullback, who has that kind of power. I really liked him. I liked Bernard Pollard, who's there now, that was in Kansas City. He was in Kansas City, and he was also in Baltimore, I believe. But I like Bernard Pollard. And then you said Dexter McCluster, another just big-time weapon that I wish we could have kept, and he went there. And then the biggest one to top it all off that ended up fucking us in the ass this week is Kansas City decided to get rid of their longtime super accurate kicker, Ryan Suckup.
Yep.
Tennessee just scooped him up, booted their shitty little kicker, and then Suckup went like 4 for 4 on field goals.
Yep, just
stuck it. We missed field goals. Our new guy, Cairo Sanders.
Was it his first kick?
Yeah, missed like a 42-yarder.
Yeah.
So that's my big thing is like now I'm just like, all right, and then they're full of players who I really liked as Chiefs, and so it's extra irritating.
Yeah.
But,
well, fuck the Titans. How about that?
Yeah, I agree. And we already talked about how dickhead their logo is. So.
Oh yeah, we don't even need to get into that. Terrible.
Where could we move them to? Maybe if they weren't there in Tennessee, if they were somewhere else, we could send them to Europe, right? We need a Europe expansion.
Yeah. Well, and their logo looks like it's a fucking European team anyway, so.
Yeah. We could send them. Where's a shitty Europe town we could send them to?
Fuck, I don't know anything about Europe.
It doesn't have to be Europe. We could be anywhere. We could send them to
be a Canadian football team.
Let's send them to Mexico.
There we go. The Mexican Titans.
Pablo San Lucas.
Yeah.
I don't know. Fucking, it's out of control.
Actually, going back to their logo looks like it should be on a fucking He-Man character's chest. I was just looking at it. It looks like it should be on a He-Man character.
Yeah,
an old fucking figurine.
It's definitely She-Ra.
Yeah, very She-Ra-ish.
Yeah, and if the Titans are going to teach you anything as a football team, the moral of their story, a la Steve McNair, is don't stick your dick in crazy.
Yeah. I didn't know if we were going to avoid the Steve McNair joke, so.
Fuck no, we're not PC on this show.
No, fuck that. Well, thank you for saying something. You know what I also noticed that we fucking fell away from? We did it the first couple weeks.
The basketball players?
Yeah, we lacked out. We fucking dropped out of our Chicago Bulls players things.
Yeah, that's because there's not enough Chicago Bulls. It just needed, if we were going to do it, it needed to be 90s basketball players.
Well, we could have did Bulls. We just couldn't think about it. Like, now that I'm like Steve Kerr, we got Paxson.
Okay, you might be able to do Bulls. I told you in episode 2 when we started doing this that my knowledge of basketball is limited to NBA Jam.
Yeah, that's true.
So I have.
That sucks because we only have 2 players.
I have 2 players with 1 player I can switch out. and then it sucks that out of all those people that I know, Luke Longley is one of them. So that's useless. That doesn't even.
That's okay. We fell off that wagon.
That's right. We'll get back on it. We'll
get on something. We'll try to throw something on there.
We'll get for all you '90s basketball fans who are listening to our podcast, I guess. Yeah. But anyways, it's time for us to go. Anyways, so feel free. Check us out. I'm sure you guys have been on the website if you're listening. Anyways, buttonhookme.com. We're on Stitcher Radio. We're on iTunes. If you basically just type us in, you can kind of find us anywhere. But make sure if you're listening this week, you're listening to this now, keep an eye on Brandon's wager for Jamal Charles getting 15 touches. If he gets under 15 touches, we're going to be taking ideas to do on the show next week. So we'll get that figured out, and we'll get that planning, and hopefully get that going. But any last little things for you, Brandon?
No, I won't have sex with men. We've gone over this. I won't do it.
All right. So
anything else?
No men.
No men.
All right. Animals are still totally valid.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they got enough fur to grab onto.
Okay. Gotta get that cushion for the push-in.
That's right.
All right, well, listeners, check us out next week. We'll be here Week 7, going over Week 2 games, and doing a whole new batch for you guys. So appreciate you listening to us, and we'll be talking to you soon. Peace.
Later.